afternoon. Welcome to the 2015 Delhi election tracker, as we've entered now absolutely the last lap and the last day with the results, which of course are unprecedented, never seen before perhaps in history, at least in the manner that we are seeing today. AAP, the Aam Aadmi Party, has come away with a staggering win against the BJP and the Congress. Congress reduced to 0, which is a record in itself. The BJP down to 3 seats at this point as we speak, and the Aam Aadmi Party at 60 seats, having won, though they are leading in 67 seats at this point of time, and the BJP is of course stuck at 3 seats. So unprecedented results, never seen before, and also an amazing outcome of an amazing exercise in trying to divine what voters were thinking all this while, as we've been doing right here on the 2015 Delhi election tracker along with Yashwant Deshmukh. But just let's take you through the results as we know them at this point, right? So there's declared seats. We're not talking about seats where there's either of the parties are still leading. AAP was leading at 67 and BJP at AAP. But in terms of declared seats, we're looking at 60 for the Aam Aadmi Party and 7 seats in which the Aam Aadmi Party is still leading, and the BJP has won 3 seats. It is leading in none. So effectively, the BJP will win only 3 seats. The Congress is not has not opened its account, so to speak, using a cricketing term, and Aam Aadmi Party will most likely go home with 63, 64 of all the 67 seats of the total. So at 67, this obviously gives it an amazing hold in the Legislative Assembly with practically no opposition, which itself is something that the history books will write about for a while. We are waiting for Yashwant to join us. Let's also tell you some of the interesting things that the polls had tried to predict, but obviously did not. But Yashwant, so I was saying that, you know, this is something unprecedented, right? But if we were to look at what we were trying to divine in the 6 weeks in the run-up to the polls, and of course the exit polls themselves, none of the polls were anywhere near trying to predict the absolute majority or the absolute strength with which AAP seems to have come in.
This was a complete massacre. I mean, there is describe it anything else. 67 to 3 is something which is you have never seen. I mean, probably it happened only in 1977 or 78 when Chaudhry Devilal kind of got everything that was there on the Haryana Assembly platter to offer. So obviously no exit poll actually predicted this kind of insane victory, if I may say, because all the exit polls were saying that okay, they are leading, they are going to win, but nowhere near that anybody could have thought of. But this is largely to do with the first part, the post system that we have in India, where beyond a certain limit, when you have a certain vote share and a gap between the two parties, it actually can give you a very weird kind of a seat vote equation. So having said that, what is more important to understand is that why this kind of magnitude has happened, why this kind of magnitude of the seat share that we are looking at it is happening. And yesterday we had a brilliant show. I mean, and for 2 days we have been trying to discuss the voting patterns in Delhi and with the different economic groups. I believe that a lot of answer lies into that graphic that we used while explaining which economic group in Delhi has voted for whom, and that is going to explain you everything, because eventually, as we mentioned, that it is going to be the turnout factor which is going to call the shot in Delhi election. What it seems to me is that the turnout factor of the bottom territory of the income groups has by and large overpowered the entire turnout of the upper bracket of the income groups, and this is what the results that
are we able to, I mean, do you think that we can quantify this right now? I mean, I'm looking at the figures that we discussed earlier. For instance, in the less than 3,000 rupee income group, which had a 47% share for AAP, 3 to 6,000 income group, again 49% against 32 for BJP.
Right.
Now, was this strong enough is what I'm trying to understand, because I mean, how could we compute this?
Well, we could analyze, we discussed about the gaps. We
Right.
did say that there are 18, 19, 20% gaps as far as the Aam Aadmi Party concerned among these income groups. And these gaps are very worrying. And we were discussing that, okay, there are huge gaps as far as the bottommost and the topmost income categories are concerned. What has happened here is that as far as the turnout is concerned, I believe that the bottom three groups of the income cluster have got a turnout of approximately 75 to 80%, while the top three clusters have got a turnout of somewhere between 50 to 55%. So overall speaking, it was a relative turnout which proved to be a killer on that polling day. And I stand by my point. I mean the data which the thing that exit poll data that revealed as far as the voting intention is concerned, that very much on the strata and different income groups very much stand true over there. And it's only a question of relative turnout, and that relative turnout, what a massacre that has been. I mean, nowhere. I mean, this is historic, unprecedented, whatever superlative words that we can use for this verdict, it could be, which also explains why and exactly how this kind of a scale becomes actually unpredictable. You know, when there is something historical of unprecedented scale, it's also unpredictable, because whatever you have seen, whatever you have understood in your known source of experience, known source of knowledge, if something defies that, that is when it becomes historic, and that is precisely when it becomes unpredictable. Yeah.
I was saying that that's called a black swan event, Yashwant. So, Yashwant, just looking at the 70 constituencies, obviously many of those constituencies, and I was looking through the list, many of them are in the relatively well-to-do areas of New Delhi or Delhi. And yet, obviously, it's with 67 seats. I mean, there is no scope to say that there is any kind of differentiation in approach.
Nothing is left.
Yeah.
There is a differentiation. If you look at the margins of the victory, you will figure out the seats which are in outer Delhi, or the seats which have this particular economic group population. The margin of victory of Aam Aadmi Party is huge, literally huge. But the more you are traveling towards the low income and the higher income groups, the margin are getting down. Even though Aam Aadmi Party has won, let me remind you that even in the south of the Delhi, the poshmost constituency, as you call it, Govind, even in those constituencies, there is 40 to 45% of electorate living in the slums or the low housing areas, or the low income group.
Right.
South Delhi is full of such constituencies and full of such voters. So overall, South Delhi looks like a very posh and upward mobile population, but there is a yin and there is a yang to that population as well. So what I'm trying to say, that even in those seats, the turnout of the low income group has been unprecedentedly higher than the turnout of the higher income group.
Right. So
and
I'm
this
looking
is
at
where
some of the margins as things stand, Yashwant. So for instance, some of the highest margins are in places like Badarpur, Ambedkar Nagar, Burari, maybe Deoli. Yeah.
Virtually all of them. You pick up the top 10 seats by the margin, and I can guarantee you all of them fall into the same category that we have been analyzing so far.
Right.
All of them. Into outer Delhi, into the areas where you have got Dalits, you have got Muslims, you have got low income groups, all these population, or the way we have been analyzing the have-nots, they have been there, big time population, and look at the margin. The margin sometimes in two of the seats, the margin is more than 60,000 votes. It's a kind of margin which you are expected to get in a Lok Sabha election, not an assembly election, for God's sake. So this is a complete polarization, complete annihilation of the opposition parties by virtue of the brutal one-way traffic as far as the lower strata of the society in the socio-economic category is concerned. They have voted decisively one way for Aam Aadmi Party. They have voted decisively one way for the Arvind Kejriwal and his governance. And the middle strata and the higher strata, they could not have. They did vote decisively in favor of the BJP as far as the data concerned, but their turnout was never good enough. Their turnout was never going to match the turnout of the other half of the society where that really mattered. This is why you will wonder to figure out that Aam Aadmi Party has gained votes, BJP has not lost votes. You know, yes. Aam Aadmi Party has gained big time. The entire vote bank it has swallowed up from Congress. And that is where the huge lead is coming from. But as far as the BJP is concerned, their vote share has not gone down. That is the beauty of this election.
Right.
So you are looking at complete polarization of elections.
Right. So I was looking at the three, I mean, maybe we could just for illustrative purposes pick the three constituencies where it's more than 60,000. So one is Deoli, where Prakash from Aam Aadmi Party beat Arvind Kumar of BJP. You also have Sultanpur Majra, where Sandeep Kumar from Aam Aadmi Party again beat Prabhu Dayal of BJP. And the last one with the 60,000, I'm seeing 54,000. Okay, I can't find the other 60,000, but there are surely some which are above 50,000.
Yeah, I can assure you that if you pick up the list of the top 10 list of Aam Aadmi Party margins, all of them, they fall into the same socio-economic category that we have been analyzing on.
Right. Right. Yeah. So okay. So we've So two seats, as you said, were more than 69,000. There are 60,000. There are several with about 50,000, and there are many. Right. There's one at 77,000. Sorry, I missed this one, which is Vikaspuri.
Yeah, there are more than 20 seats which the Aam Aadmi Party has won more than 30,000 margins. Right. All of these 20 seats are basically into that territory, that geography, that strata that we are talking about. Aam Aadmi Party has won the rest of the Delhi as well, no doubt about that. But in those rest of the Delhi, the margins are not that huge that the margins have been in these particular seats where the socio-economic demography has completely polarized, fully polarized in favor of Aam Aadmi Party, or maybe we can say they have completely polarized against the BJP, the way you wish to look at them.
Right. So, okay, so that's the socio-economic front. What about, do we have a sense on, I know that we said earlier too that most of the minorities, including, and communities like the Sikhs, actually had indicated a very strong preference for AAP, very sharply, for example, in the case of Muslims, 66 to 8, 49 to 34 in the case of Sikhs, and Christians, 52 to 28.
Yes, and the fact that the 8 seat that the BJP had, the Congress had won last time, 5 of them were the Muslim MLAs, and all of them have lost to Aam Aadmi Party.
Right.
There cannot be a more bigger evidence of the consolidation for Aam Aadmi Party as far as the minorities are concerned. All of them have lost, and mind you that those Muslim MLAs of Congress were really big time sitting stalwarts, like somebody like Memon, somebody like Harun, Balli Maharan, and I mean those are the areas where these big time MLAs have been winning 4 terms, 5 terms in a row. Harun Yusuf, Mateen, they are the big ones, and if they have lost the elections, you can understand the kind of complete one-sided polarization of the Muslim votes that have happened for Aam Aadmi Party. Also the complete polarization of the Christian votes. They may be small in numbers, but they certainly, even 1 or 2%, each and every percent of the vote has counted and added to this tsunami. So you can see from the exit poll data, even the Christians have voted completely one-sided to Aam Aadmi Party. The Sikhs have voted big time to Aam Aadmi Party. So the overall minority concentration for Aam Aadmi Party was complete, and that has added to the tsunami.
Right. Okay. So the other question is, when you look at the projections that were made, and the projections put, let's say, BJP on the higher side at 33 seats and AAP on the higher side at 43 seats. So of course, directionally the polls got it right. I mean that AAP would be ahead and BJP would trail. But the polls could not obviously capture, I mean none of the polls could actually capture such a sharp swing. Why is that?
That is simply because the moment the gap increased, then in the first past the post system, Govind, the vote and the seat equation goes for a toss. And beyond a limit. You remember the last parliamentary elections, all the polls at best in Uttar Pradesh said 50, 52, 52, 55 seats for UP in Uttar Pradesh for the BJP. They ended up with 73. Who would have imagined 26-0 in Gujarat, 25-0 in Rajasthan and those kind of things. We did stick our neck out and saying 24-0 or 25-1 kind of thing. But UP 73 nobody was expecting. Sometimes in first past the post system, once you cross a certain threshold of the vote share, these kind of tallies are, they are unlikely, they are rare, but they are not impossible. What has happened today is a rare thing, but it was not impossible. And when something rare happens, it is actually unpredictable. No, even Arvind Kejriwal would not have predicted. Yogendra Yadav predicted for 51 seats for Aam Aadmi Party at best. Aam Aadmi Party leaders were saying 38, 37 seats for them. So nobody had thought this kind of a tsunami would happen as far as the seat share is concerned. This went one way beyond a certain limit of what we can call sanity of projections of seats, if you may excuse me for using this word. But if you will ask me, Yashwant, could you have projected these kind of seat share? Well, I would say that if I was insane, I would have projected. Within my sane limits, I could never dream of projecting this kind of.
So you're also saying, I mean, Yashwant, I mean, the other question is, are also sometimes pollsters too conservative? I mean, obviously I mean, the data may show one thing, but sometimes you don't want to stick your neck out because because it feels that it may be too sharply or it may swing too far away from what a potential result could be.
I would say it's a school of thought. It's also a way person thinks. There are two different kind of models if you look at it this way. So one model actually puts the seats tally in the conservative estimate. Another model picks up the higher estimate. And you know that Chanakya's model have been picking up the higher estimate. Sometimes they get it right. Sometimes we get it right. In the last 4 assembly elections, Chanakya put up the higher numbers and he could not get it right. We put up the moderate numbers and we got it right. Today, in this case, even the higher numbers were beaten. The highest possible number was given by Chanakya, 48, and even that has been beaten by the mile. So there, as I said, that these numbers were beyond the sanity of any projection model, what my humble submission is. And we also need to understand that we need to discuss more on the socio-economic data, try to understand the trends, which we have been trying very earnestly to do in this series of Boom TV. And this is what is required more, so that we understand what the data is saying, which way the wind is blowing. And we need to understand that the polls are there to let you the macro trends. The extension of the seats is precisely, these elections are such a wonderful example of what the limitations of any poll projections are in terms of seat share. Right. In terms of vote share, yes, you can get the sharp idea where the polls are going. We did predict 43% for votes for Aam Aadmi Party. That was the highest that any poll predicted for Aam Aadmi Party. CVoter exit poll was the highest as far as the vote share is concerned, and Aam Aadmi Party still ended up getting almost probably 6-7% more than that. This is what the last trends were showing. Even though I would like to reserve my comments till I get the final vote share, everything into account. But what I'm trying to say is that we should use the polls as a tool to understand the exact serious socio-economic dissections that we have been discussing on this series, to try and understand what kind of policies are triggering what kind of reaction from the public, what is going and what is really unable to click with the public, and a broad idea of which way the wind is blowing, broad idea of which party is leading, which party is losing. Beyond that, I believe this obsession with the seat share in the Indian I would not say polling community. This is a problem with the Indian media houses which commission the poll, and their entire focus is only and only on seat share. I am so glad that we are bucking this trend on Boom TV, because this kind of analysis, Govind, you have such a long experience of journalism. You tell me, this kind of discussion has any channel on the show has ever even tried? And we have been in this business for 20 years, pleading the channels that please kindly show this data. This is much more serious data to understand why it is happening, what is happening. But nobody ever has tried, because it's a run against the time. 30-minute bulletin, half an hour show, and they have to start with the hitting bulletin. Oh, Aam Aadmi Party is winning these many seats. God's sake, thank you very much. These elections, I thank Aam Aadmi Party and Arvind Kejriwal to deliver these kind of results, because they have precisely shown that why the TV channels or the news channels or the other media organization should not go overboard, over obsessive with the projection of seats.
Right.
They should be over obsessive with the projection of votes, understanding the data the way you have been doing on this series. That is where our obsession should be.
Right, and things are surely moving in that direction. Last point and question, Yashwant, as we close. So the youth was supposed to be another constituency that was traditionally, or at least as evidenced from the Lok Sabha elections of 2014, leaning towards the BJP. Now that seems to have changed too with these elections, right? I mean, it's
Yes.
obviously when you see it on television, the visuals, I mean, you obviously see more young people with AAP. But in general, I mean, as the exit polls showed, and also I guess the results show, the youth seems to be more clearly in favor of AAP in Delhi.
Yes, and that number was very much evident as far as our exit poll numbers are concerned. We discussed it at a great length that how the youth has shifted from the BJP to Aam Aadmi Party, and especially I also mentioned the female youth that has shifted big time. And I would say that BJP has a lot of introspection to do.
Right.
The entire fringe element of the BJP and the RSS and the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, as we discussed, Sakshi Maharaj and everybody, and I said this on national TV today, the entire focus, char bacche chahiye, char bacche, char bacche, char bacche, and I said on the TV screen that look at the BJP tally, char hi bache hain.
That's a good one.
That's precisely where it has happened, and I believe that somewhere down the line the BJP and their thinkers and Prime Minister himself, let me again emphasize it, and I said this on TV as well today, that not a single time Prime Minister condemned publicly to those kind of fringe elements, not a single time, not a single tweet that these kind of polarizing,
right,
these kind of statements should not come. So I believe that forward-looking, progressive-looking vision of the BJP or the Narendra Modi, which clicked in the last 1 year, somewhere after coming the power, the fringe element took over, and
and that's something that they have obviously to, as part of the word introspection, which a lot of people and two parties are obviously doing a lot of or will do a lot of, and that's something to think of very deeply. And Yashwant, we've run out of time, so we have to close. I think we should come back once more to look at the final data and see how much of it has synced.
Let me tell you what we intend to do, Govind.
Yeah.
Once the final vote shares are out, we are going to wait over the complete data file as per the final vote share, and then we will rerun those tables and come up to see that exactly how much further polarization, whatever the trends in different categories that we had put up, how much further polarization actually happened in those categories.
Right.
And that will give you the complete picture of why this kind of a massacre on the street, on the Rajpath, as we can call it. Delhi has given some really wonderful results. Let's celebrate this result for the simple reason, for 60-10 ratio, which was 6 months back. What a verdict. This country is amazing. The people are amazing. Kudos to the people and kudos to the volunteers of Aam Aadmi Party.
Who started work long ago, Yashwant, as you pointed out yourself. I mean, and I remember you remonstrating strongly that you were upset with, in some ways, BJP for coming so late into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. And full marks to their volunteers. They were charged. The social media game is coming in, and let's not forget, this is probably the first documented assembly election in India which was actually fought on social media, which was actually fought on Twitter. And this game has changed entirely, and the way the internet penetration is going up, mobile telephony is going up, we are going to see a lot of social media, a lot of Twitter, a lot of these kind of programming series that we are doing. And thanks God that we are doing this. I hope that we get a lot much time to discuss the serious data which should be discussed, should have been discussed, but the Indian mainstream media has been ducking to discuss this kind of data. I'm glad that we started it. I'm more than happy to be part of it.
Right, Yashwant. Thank you so much for that. We're going to come back one more last time on this particular series, the 2015 Delhi election tracker, very soon. Till then, what an unprecedented result. Congratulations to the Aam Aadmi Party. Hope everyone learns something good from this and we all get good governance at the end of it all. Thank you very much for watching.